Hi, it's Ramesha here with Vocal Bliss. Today I would like to talk about breathing and breath support. As you know, breathing is very important in singing. You need a nice constant flow of air going through your vocal cords in order to have a nice steady tone. One of the main features of a nicely trained voice is the ability to hold a sound for a certain amount of time, but in a way that the sound is consistent and steady. It doesn't quiver, it doesn't do anything like that, but it's nice. It doesn't break, doesn't crack, so all these things. So how do we breathe correctly in singing? Well, you've probably all heard about diaphragmatic breathing. What does that mean? The diaphragm is a muscle in your belly. It's the shape of a dome, and it's right under your rib cage. And when you inhale, this muscle lowers, it goes down, and then when you exhale, it comes up. Now, in many people, and I've seen this with my own eyes working with people for a number of years, in many people, this muscle can become kind of atrophied. Like, we are so used to taking shallow, short breaths with the upper part of our chest. You probably see people talk and they take a breath like that. And that kind of breath is really bad for singing. One, because it's shallow and it doesn't really allow you to take in a lot of air and then sing maybe a longer phrase. But most importantly, it's bad because when you do that, you actually create tension around the throat area, which is exactly the area that you're trying to relax when you're singing. Because as you know, if you watch some of my videos, you need relaxation in order to sing properly and to have good technique. So when you sing, you want to be able to inhale, and I'll demonstrate this in a moment. You want to be able to inhale by expanding your belly, so your belly will inflate in a sense. And then when you start a note, when you are actually singing, you want to create a certain resistance, so your belly muscles should be engaged while you're singing, so that you can have a control over the flow of air that you are actually bringing into your vocal cords, through your vocal cords. So this process comes relatively naturally when you learn to place your voice correctly. However, it would be a good idea to learn it, to be aware of it, and to practice it consciously, and to improve it consciously. Sometimes we need to sing long phrases, and we feel like we don't have enough breath. If we learn to control these muscles, the diaphragm and the belly muscles, we will be able to control the flow of air to such a point that if the phrase is too long, we can just go and still be singing. And we can even learn how to take very short catch breaths that are almost imperceptible, that nobody can actually hear. But this is the subject for another video. And then to be able to really continue singing and finish our phrase. So in this video, I will show you in just a moment how to practice diaphragmatic breathing. And then I will also show you what you can do to improve it and to do some simple exercises that will allow you to warm up not just your voice, but also your diaphragm. The diaphragm is so overlooked. Diaphragmatic breathing is so important. It helps not just for singing, it's important in general. Every time we take a breath, we should take a breath inflating our belly and not lifting our chest all the time, because it helps to stay calm and relaxed. It's actually, if you practice diaphragmatic breathing consciously, you can actually use it to relax the mind, relax the body. So it's very important in moments of stress, especially. But in singing, it's absolutely essential. So now I'm going to show you how you can practice this. Okay, so here I am standing sideways, so You see, this is my belly right here. I am putting a hand on my belly because I want you to be able to see the movement of the belly. And so maybe I should have worn something tighter, but anyway, there you have it. So this is what we're going to do. And you can do this with me as I show you. So we're going to take a long inhalation through our nose for now, just because it allows for deeper breathing that way. So we're going to take a long inhalation, and as we inhale, we are going to inflate the belly. So your belly will come out like this. And then when we exhale, we will engage these muscles kind of tightly. And then as we exhale and we go all the way to no breath left in our lungs, basically, the belly will go back towards your spine. So basically it will look like this. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. The belly comes out. Exhale. Okay, so this is the basic technique, basically. Okay, so if you have a hard time feeling this movement, I suggest you try it while laying on your back because it's easier to feel the movement. But it could also mean that your diaphragm hasn't been used very much. And so you might want to actually, when you inhale, really inflate as far as you can go your belly. And don't be afraid you're not going to get a belly. You know, it's just for that moment. Inhale, inflate, exhale, deflate. And make sure that when you exhale, the muscles are engaged. Now, in order to keep the muscles engaged while you're exhaling, which is what has to happen when you're singing, we're going to do this exercise. So you're going to inhale, inflating your belly. And then when you exhale, close almost completely your lips and try to blow through your lips, but when they're almost completely closed. So you're basically creating closure here so that there's a certain resistance to the air. It's like, ideally, it's like inflating a balloon. You know, when you inflate a balloon, you have to actually push your breath into the balloon. So if you have a balloon, you can actually do that. That's a great exercise to strengthen your diaphragm. But if you don't have a balloon, you can do this. You can inhale, inflate your belly, and then exhale. Close your lips very tightly. And that way you create good resistance to the air coming up. This will train your belly muscles, your diaphragmatic muscle, your diaphragm, to really make this effort of pushing the air out, which is basically what you do when you're singing. When you're singing, I don't know if you're familiar with an instrument called accordion. You know, that instrument that you played, it has keys here, but in order to have a sound, you have to keep pumping in and out like that. So imagine that your belly, your diaphragm is like this bellow, it's called, where it has to always have air pressure in it in order for the sound to be consistent. If you don't have that, the sound deflates. So this is what happens when you sing without good belly engagement. So the belly should always be engaged. As long as you're making a sound, whether singing or speaking for that matter, your belly should always be engaged to some extent. So practice this exercise a few times, and also I would suggest you get into the habit of warming up not just your voice before like a performance or a rehearsal or whatever, before singing. Not just your voice, but also your breathing muscles, because those are part of vocal production, voice production. It's not just here and here, it's also what happens down here. In fact, this is something that my teacher used to say, that when you sing correctly, your larynx, so your vocal cords here, obviously are vibrating. But she said, this should be like the eye of a hurricane. Everything around it is happening. The belly is working, you know, there's a certain presence, especially if you're standing and you're singing, there's a certain physical involvement. But she said the larynx should be very relaxed. And the vocal cords should, obviously they are doing something, they are operating, but the muscles should be as relaxed as possible. So this is something to keep in mind. So this is why I say the real motor of the voice is your belly, and that's where it comes from. So make sure when you sing, and also when you speak, actually, if you can, make sure you always take your breaths by inflating your belly. And then when you are singing or speaking, make sure that your belly is engaged. It will be obviously more engaged when you're singing than speaking, because singing requires more breath and more air pressure. But still, this happens for both singing and speaking. So there's a lot more that I could talk about in terms of breathing, and maybe I will in another video. But for this one time, I just wanted to make sure you understand this process of, and how important breathing is in singing. Don't take it for granted. It's very, very important. If you have a hard time projecting your tone out, yes, it could be a lack of good placement. That's the case most of the times, actually. But other times it can also be lack of good breath support. And so make sure that while you're working on placing your notes correctly and enunciating your vowels the way we've been talking about, make sure that you also have good engagement from your belly, that you are breathing, that make sure that your belly is not paralyzed when singing. You know, make sure you don't breathe with your chest and keep your belly like inactive. Quite the opposite. Your belly has to be engaged. You have to inhale, inflate it, exhale, deflate it. And then, yes, the chest will inflate too somewhat when you take a big breath. But the motor that supports everything is in the belly. So I hope this was helpful. And like I say, I will maybe talk more about this subject in the future. But for now, please practice this simple exercise of inhaling, inflate your belly, exhale through your mouth with pressing, you know, closing your lips almost completely and pressing. The more you close your lips, the bigger the effort you have to make to push the air out. And that's good. This is what this exercise is about. So let me know how it goes. If you want, you can post in the comments below how you did with this exercise. If you have any questions, same thing, post your question below and I will answer it as soon as I can. So thanks for listening and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.